Hi everyone, Jen has asked me to do this week's video, and the subject this week is grief. So what is grief? You hear people saying good grief, or I do anyway, you might not. But is grief ever good? I don't think so. And what does it mean? Because I think the way the word grief is used nowadays is people say, oh, she's giving me a bit of grief, or he's giving me a bit of grief. And what does that mean? A bit of hassle? Someone's annoying, they're just giving you a bit of grief. But actually, the word grief is, when you've lost someone you've loved, or lost something that you've loved. And there's a whole process of how we deal with grief. I suppose the start of it would be numbness, shock, and maybe even denial. And then we'll probably go through a stage of yearning for that thing that we've lost. And then things can get messy and disorganized and despair, as we try to come to terms with the thing that we have lost. And then slowly we can be reorganized and maybe get some resolution from it. But that could take a long time. And I know you may have not necessarily lost someone, but certainly through this COVID, you've definitely probably lost opportunities to do things that you hoped you would, especially with exams and things like that. I know this week I've lost someone. I've lost members of staff through redundancy, and that is really hard. And that's really tough to understand, and you go through a whole series of emotions, and most of them at the start aren't particularly good emotions, angry and upset and everything, and you questioning why on all these things. But there's a couple of Bible verses that we look at that actually are quite hard to deal with, and are quite dark, and not very positive, and you wouldn't expect to necessarily see that in the Bible. I mean, some of the Psalms that we can look at, Psalm 137, Psalm 13. I'm going to read to you Psalm 88, and these are actually Psalms of despair. So, Lord, you are the God who saves me. Day and night I cry out to you. May my prayer come before you. Turn your ear to my cry. I'm overwhelmed with troubles, and my life draws near to death. I am counted among those who go down to the pit. I'm like the one without strength. I'm set apart with the dead, like the slain who lie in the grave, whom you remember no more, who you cut off from your care. You have put me in the lowest pit, in the darkest depths. Your wrath lies heavily on me. You have overwhelmed me with all your waves. You have taken from me my closest friends. You have made me repulsive to them. I'm confined and cannot escape. My eyes are dim with grief. I call to you, Lord, every day. I spread out my hands to you. Do you show your wonders to the dead? Do their spirits rise up and praise you? Is your love declared in the grave, your faithfulness in destruction? Are your wonders known in the place of darkness, or your righteous deeds in the land of oblivion? But I cry to you for help, Lord. In the morning my prayer comes before you. Why, Lord, do you reject me and hide your face from me? From my youth I have suffered and been close to death. I have borne your terrors and I am in despair. Your wrath has swept over me. Your terrors have destroyed me. All day long they surround me like a flood. They have completely engulfed me. You have taken from me friend and neighbour. Darkness is my closest friend. So obviously this psalmist was in a real low place. And the only reason why I've read this to you is, do you know what? Sometimes we may feel we should hide our deepest emotions from God, especially if they're feeling negative towards him. But when you've lost someone or something, that's probably how you feel. You know, why God? Why have you done this? But and we probably feel that like we should be full of hope and glory and not sort of show this side to God. Um, but the psalm shows that it's okay to express our deepest despair to God, even if we don't have much faith left. These psalms of despair, or some of them, actually end on a hopeful note. So if you read Psalm 13, but Psalm 88 and Psalm 137 are completely dark and full of despair. But the important thing is that, you know, whatever we are feeling and asking Him and asking God, He will answer the cries of our hearts. So even if you're feeling really low and you know, especially through all this COVID stuff where we haven't been able to do the things that we want to, so we've lost out on opportunities and we've lost things that we would like to do, just talk to God, because actually He is the only one who can help us through this all, especially when we're feeling low and we're grieving and we have grief from it all. So all I would say is, you know, although that psalm I've read to you is dark and it's full of despair, you may not really feel like that, but if there is a time that you do feel like that, just cry out to God, because He is the one who will answer what is in our hearts, and He is the one who will give us strength to cope with things that we have lost, and He is the one that will give us hope, and just find peace. Hope you enjoyed this video. See you all soon. Thanks.